everyone. Welcome to the online class sessions conducted by ASAP, Additional Skill Acquisition Program, Department of Higher Education, Government of Kerala. Today we have a session for the 6th semester civil engineering students on the subject Transportation Engineering and Management. And to handle the class today, we have with us Ms. Kavita Madhu, Associate Professor, Department of Civil Engineering, TKM College of Engineering, Kollam. Ms. Kavita Madhu has taken her BTech in Civil Engineering from TKM College of Engineering. She did her MTech from Kerala University in Traffic and Transportation Engineering, and currently she is doing her PhD from IIT Madras in Traffic Flow Theory as well. And she has around 13 years of teaching experience as a lecturer and assistant professor in Civil Engineering in Engineering College. In addition to her teaching experience, she is a consultant to various sponsored projects in government level as well. And she's got around 10 papers to her journal publications as well as conferences. Madam, it is a great pleasure to have you handle a class for us students here. On behalf of ASAP, I extend a very warm welcome to you, ma'am. Over to you.
Thank you, Priya. Thank you for the nice introduction. Very good afternoon to all. I'm extremely happy and privileged to be a part of this online live class organized by ASAP. It's a great platform where the students and faculty can interact each other and share their knowledge in this lockdown period. So first time in life, we all are experiencing or going through these situations. Hope we could overcome this successfully. So I take this opportunity to appreciate the efforts made by ASAP in implementing this program in a productive way, and I would like to express my pleasure and sincere thanks to the entire team for giving me this window of opportunity. The topic that I am going to discuss today is design of intersection, which is common to two subjects. Okay, Transportation Engineering 1, which is a core subject, and Traffic Engineering and Management, which is an elective for the 6th semester BTech Civil Engineering. So we all have realized the importance of transportation in this lockdown period, right? The development and advancements in transportation is closely linked with the development of mankind. For example, if we are looking to buy a plot of land, we always check its proximity with the road network or rail network. So population always have a tendency to settle along the transportation routes, either river shore or roadside, etc. So its transportation is very vital for the economic development, industrial development, or socio and cultural development of any region. The prosperity of a nation is entirely dependent upon the transportation infrastructure it is having. A system is a group of components working together for the development of mankind. So transportation can be considered as one such system. So another example is power supply system or water supply system, etc. So there are three main components in transportation system. One is a user. Another one is the means or modes by which the people or goods are transported from one place to another. And there should be a control mechanism to control these elements. So depending on the means or modes, the transport can be classified into four, that is roadways, railways, airways and waterways. So today we will be seeing in detail the roadways. And focusing on road transportation, there are two elements. One is the traffic engineering part and another is the pavement engineering part. So under the traffic engineering, you might have studied in your module 1 and 2 where you have seen the geometric design of highways and the various traffic factors influencing it, and you have studied the design elements, vertical alignment, horizontal alignment, the side distance consideration, etc. So along with that, we'll have to study the intersection design also. So today's class, we will be concentrating on the intersection design part. In the pavement engineering, we will be seeing the different types of pavement and the different materials that can be used for the construction of pavement. What are the standard test procedure that can be used to ascertain the quality of materials, and also the different design methods all will be covered under pavement engineering. Let's consider a traffic corridor. So depending upon the traffic flow characteristics, the traffic corridor can essentially be split into a mid-block section, a transition zone and an intersection. So the flow characteristics is different for each of these zones. If we consider the mid-block section, almost the vehicle are in a free moving condition or sometimes in the car following situation. Whereas if it is nearing an intersection area, depending upon the control provided there, so either it may be showing a red signal or it may be showing a green. Accordingly, it may take decision whether to move or to stop. If it is stopping, it has to stop and wait in a queue. So what happens in the transition zone? So from mid-block to the intersection, there is some kind of transition that is happening. For example, a vehicle from the mid-block, if he wants to turn left, then accordingly in the transition zone, he may be shifting his position, or if he wants to turn right, he may be shifting his position to the right. And then he needs to design on his speed, whether to reduce the speed or we can safely move with the same speed. So transition zone is a zone of transition from mid-block to the intersection area. So let's see in detail the intersection, what are the different types of intersection and what are the design parameters to be considered, and also we will see the signal design, the Webster method of signal design. So an intersection is where two or more roads join or cross each other. So this is a famous intersection in Ernakulam. It's a vital intersection. This photo was taken long back before the flyover construction that's going on now. So let's see what are the different classification of intersection. Intersection may be classified into two broad groups. One is at-grade intersection. So at-grade intersection is where all the roads are meeting at the same level. The different examples are unchannelized intersection, channelized intersection, rotary intersection. All are examples of at-grade intersection where the roads are meeting at the same level. Whereas in the case of grade separated intersection, the roads will be meeting at two different levels. The intersecting roads are separated by difference in level, thus eliminating the crossing maneuver. The at-grade intersection can further be classified into a three approach intersection where there is three roads or three legs meeting at a point. So it is resembling the alphabet T, that is why it's called T intersection, which are meeting at right angle. Whereas if one of the approaches is meeting at an angle other than right angle, it becomes a skewed T. Whereas it can also form a Y intersection depending upon how the three roads are meeting. Then can be four approach which are meeting at right angles, or it can be meeting at an offset, or there can be oblique intersection where all the four roads are meeting at some angle other than right angle. Then there can be approaches with five or more approaches, like 5-leg approach or 6-leg approach, etc. So let's consider this example where a minor road meets with a major road. So the vehicle which is coming from the southern side of the major road, it has an option of either moving straight or moving left or right. So in a similar way, the vehicle coming from the opposite direction also has a freedom to move either straight or right or left. So what happens if these all are happening simultaneously? This can lead to collision. So these are the points of collision. Okay. So how can we eliminate these points of collision? So let's consider the example of two-way streets where the vehicles are moving in both the direction in these two streets. If this is a type of movement, how many conflict points can these lead to? Yeah, it can lead to a total of 32 conflict points. Okay, how? So let's see here. Let's see the vehicle coming from here. Okay, so he can either move to left or straight or right. Okay, so if it is moving to the left, he is diverging from here and merging with the other road, right? So there is one diverging conflict and there is another merging conflict happening here. Then if he is moving to the right, there can be other vehicle coming from the opposite direction also turning right. This will lead to intersecting conflict. Then he can have a conflict here with a vehicle coming from this direction, and also when moving to here, the vehicle coming from the other direction may come and intersect with him. So there are 32 potential conflict points or potential accident location that can happen because if two-way streets are meeting at each other. So how can we reduce this accident probability? Now let's see the different type of maneuvers at an intersection depending upon the traffic conflicts there. Okay. So first one is crossing. So when the two vehicles are crossing each other, that will lead to a crossing or an intersecting conflict. Another one is diverging, where the vehicle moving in one direction, here the vehicle moving in one direction is separated into two different streams or two different destinations. So that is an example of diverging kind of maneuver. Then next is merging, where the vehicle coming from different destination, they merge together and thereafter move as a single stream. Then another one is weaving, which is a combination of merging and diverging. Here you can see the vehicle coming from two different directions. First they are merging, then diverging into different streams. So combined merging and diverging movement is what is known as weaving maneuver. So let's see the classification of at-grade intersection. First one is the unchannelized intersection, where you can see this in a residential area where two roads are meeting each other, where there is no means of channelizing or there is no means of control. Okay, so the vehicle themselves decide where and how to move. And another one is channelized intersection, where the vehicle stream is being segregated depending upon the direction in which it wants to move. Another one is rotary intersection, where a central island is being provided and the vehicle can move around this rotary and can diverge and merge and diverge from this intersection area accordingly. The next one is a signalized intersection, where the signal lights are being provided according to the volume that is existing on each of these roads. Unchannelized intersection, it is the lowest class of intersection. It is easy to construct, but here the figure itself, it is very clear that the traffic operation is very complex. It will lead to a large conflicting area. So this will lead to a large conflicting area. There is no means of segregating the traffic depending on the direction it wants to move. Next one is channelized intersection, where channels are being provided, or there will be traffic guidelines or pavement markings that are being provided according to the direction in which the vehicle wants to move. Thereby we can control its movement. So it facilitates the safe and orderly movement of both vehicles and pedestrians. So a rotary intersection is an example of at-grade intersection, where there will be a large intersection area and there will be a central island that is being provided. So a vehicle entering to the intersection area can move around this island and can diverge from the intersection area accordingly. So this will reduce the potential conflict points, and it will also reduce the waiting time for the vehicles in each of these approach legs. So let's have a comparison between the conventional intersection and a rotary intersection. So we have seen the number of conflict points in a conventional intersection is 32. Okay. So what happens when the rotary is being provided instead of this conventional intersection? So you can see the total number of conflict points have been reduced to 8. As you see, the crossing conflict, it has completely been eliminated. Okay. So the advantage of rotary, by providing a rotary, is the crossing conflict is completely eliminated and converted into weaving maneuver, which consists of both merging and diverging maneuver. So that is the advantage of providing a rotary roundabout. Let's see the design elements of rotary roundabout. For K2, a frequently asked question is to find the capacity of a rotary roundabout. So what are the factors upon which the capacity of a rotary roundabout depends upon? So let's see that. So Transportation Research Lab or Transportation Road Research Lab, or TRL, have proposed this empirical formula to find the capacity or the maximum volume in a rotary roundabout, which is dependent upon certain factors. Okay, let's see what are those factors. So when you consider a rotary roundabout, if the vehicle is coming from the west side, okay, so it is entering through this portion, what happens? There will be already existing traffic in this rotary area. Okay, so it will be first of all merging with that and then moving along with this traffic, and later it will be diverging. Okay, so this portion is what is known as the weaving section, where the merging as well as diverging maneuver is happening. Okay, the capacity of this rotary roundabout is dependent upon this weaving section or the width of the weaving section, and it also depends upon the length of the weaving section. Another factor is P, which is the proportion of weaving traffic to the total traffic. Okay, so that is what is P. Then there is another thing is E, or the entry width. Okay, so the entry width is, there is, for example, if I consider this particular weaving section, the entry is happening through two sections. One is from here, another one is from here. So I have to consider these two entry widths into the intersection area. And another factor is the exit radius. Okay, so always the exit radius is kept more than that of the entry radius in order to facilitate more discharge of vehicle from the intersection area. Then next is the radius of this center island. The radius of this center island is also been kept more than that of the entry radius. Usually it is 1.3 times more than that of the entry radius. So now let's move into a numerical example where this shows the traffic bound to different directions. So for example, if I see west direction, the total volume of vehicles is 1405 coming from the western side, and it is 400 vehicles are bound towards the northern side, 505 vehicles are bound to eastern side, and 510 vehicles are bound to the southern side. So likewise, you can see the vehicle coming from different approaches and the desired direction in which it wants to move. So what is being asked in the question is you are asked to find the capacity of this particular rotary roundabout. Okay. As I told you earlier, the capacity of a rotary roundabout is very much dependent on the weaving section. Okay, the length and width of the weaving section. So let's see how can we find this width and length. This is the weaving section under consideration. Okay, so we need to find how much should be this width of this weaving section and length of the weaving section. So width of the weaving section is always kept one lane or one lane width more than the average entry and exit. So let's consider this portion through which the vehicle entering into the weaving section is through E1 and E2, right? So the average entry width is E1 plus E2 by 2 plus an extra of 3.5 or 1 lane width is being added. Whereas if I consider the weaving length is always kept very much higher than that of the weaving width, or the ratio of length to width of a weaving section, the minimum value provided by IRC is 4. So always the weaving length is 4 times the weaving width. Things. Next is you have to find the proportion of weaving and non-weaving traffic. As I told you, so D and A, they are the non-weaving traffic. So the D and A are moving through the outermost lane, whereas C and B, they are first merging and later diverging. So what will be the proportion of the weaving traffic? It will be B plus C is the weaving traffic divided by the total traffic, A plus B plus C plus D. So let's see this rotary. So this is the volume of traffic given. So this diagram specifies, or this is being specified in this diagram. For example, there is 1405 vehicle from the western side, of which 400 is moving towards north. So what you will usually do if you want to move to the northern side, usually we will be sticking on to the leftmost lane, right? Whereas if there is another vehicle, 505 vehicles which wants to move to the eastern side, so what they will do, they will go around the rotary like this. So you can see 505 getting added here and here. Okay, then next is 510 vehicle wants to move to the southern side. So can it directly move to the right? No, because in the rotary only clockwise direction movements are permitted. So it cannot directly move to the right hand side. So this is not being permitted. So what it has to do, it has to move around and then go this way. So I can see like this 510, first it will get merged into the stream, already existing stream. After that, it prefer to move to the right hand lane, and after that it will diverge and move away from the intersection area. So similar way you can mark the vehicles coming and leaving to different directions, and this will form this diagram. Okay. So after drawing this traffic negotiating the rotary island, next we can find out the proportion of weaving traffic. Okay. So the proportion of weaving traffic is the weaving traffic to the total traffic. So now you can use this diagram which shows the traffic negotiating the rotary area. This we can use to find the proportion of weaving traffic in each of these directions. So first let's consider the northwest direction. So if I consider the northwest direction, how much is the weaving traffic here? There is this merging one and this much is the diverging one. So the sum of this will give you the total weaving traffic. Whereas if you see this 400, it is moving through the leftmost lane. Whereas if you consider this 370, it is again moving through the rightmost lane. So these two are non-weaving traffic. So how can I write? The proportion of weaving traffic in the northwest direction is 505 plus 510 plus 600 plus 350 divided by, along with this you have to add the vehicle that are non-waving, which is 400 and 370, which are moving through the left and rightmost lane. So the ratio is 0.718. In a similar way, I can find the weaving traffic in the northeast direction, which is coming to be 0.674. Then again in the southeast direction we can find, which is 0.783, and the southwest direction, okay, so which is again 0.6099. Of which value should we select? We must select the max value. This value we have to select because the capacity of this rotary intersection depends upon this, the maximum capacity of this weaving section, or the maximum proportion of this weaving traffic. So once we find that, the next step is, once we get the value of P, then we can find the capacity of the rotary intersection by the TRL formula, where we can substitute these values. We already found what is W, we found what is L, and we know what is E, and we have found what is the value of P, or the weaving traffic proportion. So when substituting this, you will get the capacity of this rotary roundabout, which is coming to be 2162 vehicles per hour. Okay, hope this is clear to you. Till now we were seeing the classification of at-grade intersection. We have seen unchannelized, channelized intersection. Then we have seen the rotary intersection, how to find the capacity of rotary intersection. So the rotary intersection is working based on the principle of space sharing. It is sharing the space among different traffic which are moving into different directions. Okay. Next, let's see signalized intersection, which is working based on time sharing principle. So let's move into the details of that. So let's consider here two major roads are moving. Both the vehicles are thinking that they have the right of way to enter. Then what happens? That will lead to an accident. On the other hand, it is being done by the signal. It is actually time sharing between them. So if the first vehicle, one road is shown red, other one is shown green, so that the vehicle in the green road had the right of way to enter. Same time the other vehicle will be waiting, and next when the signal turns into green, the vehicle which is waiting can enter the intersection area, the other can wait there. So traffic signal is a most effective and flexible method of controlling the traffic, which is widely being used in several cities around the world. Okay. So the conflicts arising from different movements is addressed by time sharing principle. So how the right of way is allotted here? So the right of way is allotted to different traffic according to the standard color. So we all know the standard color of traffic light, where there is red, amber, green. So red indicate stop, amber is to slow down, and green means you are free to proceed. And at some cases where the pedestrian traffic is high, there is one more phase being provided for the pedestrians, exclusively for pedestrian, which is known as pedestrian phase. Let's move on to the basic definitions and notations. Let's consider this four-legged intersection. So the vehicles are coming from all the four approaches. So let's consider this particular traffic, which is coming from the western direction and it is moving towards or destined towards east. So I can call this to be eastbound. Okay, whereas I consider this from the western side, it is coming and it is bound towards south. So this is a right hand turn from the western side. So this mostly in the case of signal, when we are designing the signal system, we are concerned about the straight through and the right turning movement, whereas the left turning is considered as a free left, because in Indian condition where it is a the left hand drive where the vehicles are keeping to the left hand side of the road. It's called left hand drive condition where the left turning movement is almost free. Unless otherwise there are considerable amount of pedestrian traffic crossing here, this left turning movement is considered as free left. Okay, so let's see, if I'm permitting all these movements to happen simultaneously, what happens? This may lead to a certain number of conflicts. I told you it may lead to 32 conflict points. Okay, so in order to eradicate that, I have to share the time among these different movements. Okay, so one way of doing that is by providing phase. Okay, so the east west I can put under one phase. So phase is nothing but it's a time during which non-conflicting movements are assigned. Okay, allows a set of movements to flow safely. So it's a phasing. We provide only non-conflicting movements. So if I consider phase 1, where the movement is happening in the east-west direction, whereas the north-south movement is restricted there. When moving into the second phase, the movement in the north-south direction is permitted, whereas in the east-west direction is restricted. So what is this dotted line? When I am permitting this east-west direction traffic, along with that, there will be a right turning traffic also which is being permitted from both these directions. Okay. Similar way, in the north-south direction, these corresponding right turning movements are also being permitted for the north-south direction. So let's see this signal phasing. So when green is shown to one phase, the other movement will be shown red. Whereas when the indication turns into red for one phase, the other will be green. So that is how we can share the time among these two conflicting movements. That is the simplest way of providing phasing. So let's go into the definition and notation. So phasing is a signal phase is a part of a cycle length allocated to a traffic movement receiving the right of way. During green interval, non-conflicting movements are assigned into each phase. I told you, and I'm assigning to the green interval for the east-west phase. The other north-south phase will be provided with a red interval. Okay. So other option is, if the traffic is very high, then I can permit from each of these. From westbound, I can provide one phase. From eastbound, another phase. North into third phase, and south from the vehicles from the south into the fourth phase. Then if the right turning proportion of the right turning movement is high, then I can make east west direction to be under one phase, north south to be under another phase, and then the corresponding right turning movement happening in the east west can be clubbed together into the third, and the other right turning movement in the north south direction can be clubbed into a fourth phase. This is usually being provided when the right turning movement is heavy. So let's consider this two-phase signal system, phase A and phase B. So right of way is provided to east-west direction for phase A and north-south direction for phase B. So what happens? How can we share the time here? Okay. So let's consider phase A. First we will be providing green. After that a warning sign or amber. Then it moves into red. So what about phase B? The vehicles are moving in phase A during the time green and yellow. So the corresponding time for phase B should be red. Otherwise there will be conflicts. Okay. So this time is red, and after that when the red time is provided for phase A, the same time can be utilized for phase B for moving the vehicle. So as I told you, the green and amber time for phase A will be red for phase B, whereas the red phase for phase A can be utilized for the vehicle movement on phase B. So this is how the phasing diagram is being designed. Okay, and at the end of each signal cycle, there will be an all red period provided. So this all red time, it has got two purposes to serve. One is, if the pedestrian traffic in that locality is high, then this all red time can be utilized for them to cross the road. Okay, and another purpose of providing that is, If some vehicle got trapped in the intersection area, then during this all red time, they can clear the intersection area. So during all red time, the both the phases will be showing a red indication. Okay. So next, the total time for this is what is known as the cycle length or cycle length. It is a time taken to complete one full cycle of indication. Okay. It indicates the time interval between the starting of one green for one approach till the next time the green starts in the same approach. So after this red again the green will be showing on phase A. So it is a time interval between the starting of green for one approach till the next time the green start in the same approach. So that is what is known as the cycle, and the time required for the time for this is what is known as the cycle length. So it is green, amber, red, green, amber, red period. Okay. So cycle is one complete sequence of all these indication is what is known as cycle, and cycle length is a time in seconds that takes a signal to complete one cycle of indication. So the maximum cycle length that can be provided is 120 seconds. So when designing, if your cycle time what you are calculating is exceeding 120 seconds or 2 minutes, then you have to limit that to 2 minutes or 120 seconds. Normally the cycle time varies in the range of 30 to 90 seconds. So interval is the different indication that is being shown. So green interval means a green indication is shown for a set of non-conflicting movements. Okay. At the same time, the other approach it will be shown a red interval where the movement is restricted, and there is a yellow time or is a change interval from green to red time. So these are the different intervals. So now let's see the lowest time. So what happens? Suppose you are waiting in a queue. You are waiting for the signal light to turn green. Okay. Then suddenly it turns into green. So you are in the fifth position. Can all of a sudden can you enter into the intersection area? No, you have to wait for some time. No, so the first vehicle it has to react to the situation, it has to move. Then the second vehicle also need to cross the stop line. Third vehicle, fourth vehicle. Then only you will get a chance to enter into the intersection area. So there will be some amount of loss. So the loss can be called this initial loss. So this is a initial loss. And finally what happens? There is a clearance loss also. So for example, there are two drivers in the approaching the intersection area. Suddenly the signal light turns from green to red. Okay, so the amber light is being shown or the yellow light is being shown. So what happens? The conservative driver, he may wait there, whereas the rash driver will utilize this opportunity and he will cross or he will move through the intersection. So depending upon the driver characteristic, there will be some amount of confusion arising at the end of each signal time, or at the end of yellow time there will be a clearance loss. So I can say the loss time, it indicates the time during which the intersection is not effectively being used. So if I consider the total time that is being utilized by a particular phase is green plus yellow time, right? So of which there will be some amount of startup loss time, LS, and there will be some amount of clearance loss time or L2. So what will be the total loss time? It will be the startup loss plus the clearance loss. So as I told you, let's see what is startup loss time. So its indication is red first. So the vehicles will be waiting. Then it's turned into green at time t0. First vehicle is closing at time t1. Second vehicle t2, t3, t4, t5. With the corresponding time, the vehicles are crossing the stop line. So what will be the headway? It will be t1 minus t2. So the loss for the first vehicle from the time it turns into green is t1 minus t0. Similarly, for second vehicle t2 minus t0, and correspondingly the fifth vehicle the loss time will be t5 minus t0. So if I sum up all this, if I add all these values, I'll get the startup loss time. Okay. So if we plot between the loss time and the vehicle in the queue, initially we can see that the loss time will be high and as we move on to the fifth or sixth vehicle, it becomes almost constant, and this is what is known as the discharge headway. Okay, so this discharge headway can be used for finding the saturation flow rate. For example, if the discharge headway or if the discharge headway between two vehicles is 1 second, so what will be the saturation flow rate? It will be 3600 divided by 1, or we can say like 3600 vehicles will be moving through that intersection approach. Okay, which means under the ideal condition, if the entire 1 hour is provided for green, how many number of vehicles can cross the intersection area is what is known as the saturation flow rate. So if we know the saturation flow rate, then we can find the capacity. So the capacity of the intersection is dependent upon the saturation flow rate. It again depends upon the cycle length and also depends upon the effective green time that is being provided. So now let's see what is effective green time. So if I add up all these values, that will give me the startup loss time. So let's consider here. Green, yellow and red are the different intervals in a cycle. So green and yellow is the time during which the vehicle movements are permitted. Okay. And when green starts, there will be a startup loss time which is being given by L1. And finally, it turns into red, there will be clearance loss time. So how much effective time is available for the vehicle to move is what is given as the green time. So total time available for the movement of the vehicle is the total time G plus 1 is what we are assuming the vehicle can travel, but it's not the actual one. There will be some amount of loss happening there, right? So it is G plus Y minus this loss will be the effective green time which is being used to find the capacity of the intersection. Then next let's see what is loss time per phase. So this particular phase, how much will be the loss? It will be L1 plus L2. And you will have a doubt here why this red time is also a loss. It's not a loss for this particular phase, it is red, whereas for the other phase it will be showing a green indication where the vehicles can move. So the loss time is a time during which the vehicles are restricted from entering into the intersection area. So the loss time will be this initial loss plus clearance loss will be the loss for one phase. So if there are two phases there, it will be 2 into this loss per phase will be the total loss. Into that, if an all-red time is also being provided, for example, for crossing the pedestrians, we will be providing an all-red time where the vehicle movement is not possible. So the total loss time for the vehicle movement will be the loss time per phase multiplied by the number of phase plus the all-red time. This is how we are finding the total loss time. Okay. So this total loss time is being used by Webster in order to get the equation for getting the equation for the cycle length, Webster's optimal cycle length. Okay. So Webster's optimal cycle length is derived from this loss time, and another value which is being considered is the V by S ratio. Okay. So for example, there is the total volume in an intersection area is say 1000 vehicles per hour, of which one direction there is 750 vehicles and in the other direction there is 250 vehicles. Okay, so in what way should we allot the time? For example, I have 1 hour of time with me. How will I allot the time? So 750 and 250 is the proportion of volume in these two directions. So 75% of the time I will allot to one particular movement and the 25% of time for the other movement. Okay, so depending upon the volume, we have to allot the time. So V by S ratio is V is the volume and S is the saturation flow rate. So which is an ideal condition. If the entire 1 hour is provided for green, how many maximum number of vehicles can cross the intersection is what is given as the saturation flow. You don't have to go through the derivation of this equation. You have to just know this is the Webster's equation for finding the cycle length. So what happens? The cycle length, if the cycle length goes too low, then the delay will increase, and if the cycle length is too high, again then the delay will increase. So you have to have an optimum value of cycle length for which the delay will be minimum. So now let's do a numerical example and then I'll explain the various steps involved in it. So here what is being given, the volume toward different directions are given, northbound, southbound, eastbound and westbound traffic, the volume and its corresponding flow rate is also being provided in the question. So it's a fixed time two-phase signal. So in the question itself, it is provide how many number of phase it requires. It is a two-phase signal to be provided at an intersection having north-south and east-west flows. Okay. The design R flows from the various arms and saturation flow are given in the table. Calculate the optimum cycle length based on Webster's equation and find the corresponding green times. Loss per phase is provided as 2 seconds and end low interval is also given as 2 seconds. Sketch the timing diagram for each phase. So let's start solving this problem. So first step is determine the number of phases. So in the question itself it is being given as 2 phase. Okay, so directly we can say it is a 2-phase system. First phase is north-south direction and another phase we are providing for east-west direction. Then what is the second step? The volume and saturation flow is given. We have to find the critical lane, okay, depending upon the V by S ratio. So from the table it is given, we can find what is V by S value. So north-south is cleft together and east-west direction movements are cleft together. That is our two different phases, north-south and east-west. So considering the north-south direction, which one is the critical one? There is 0.33 and 0.20. So for which V by S ratio should we design it? For the maximum value or 0.33 we should design. And when we consider east and westbound traffic of these two, again we have to consider the maximum, which is 0.25. So what will be our critical V by S ratio? It is 0.33 plus 0.25 or it is 0.58. Okay, so since we are clubbing north-south together, of these two we have to select the maximum value. And again from east-west direction we have to select the maximum value, which is 0.25, and the sum of this will give the critical V. So the third step is determine the loss time. Okay. So when discussing the Webster's equation for finding the cycle length, I told you it requires two things. One is the loss time and another one is V by S ratio, critical V by S ratio. So we have already found critical V by S ratio. Now we need to find the total loss time. So the total loss time is dependent upon the loss time per phase and it also depends on the ordered period that is being provided. So in the question they haven't mentioned anything about the ordered time, so we can assume that to be 0. So now let's consider this part. Okay. So what is given in the question? The loss per phase is given as 2 seconds. Okay. So which is clearance loss plus startup loss L1 plus L2. So ordered period is 0. Then what will be the total loss? It will be the loss per phase multiplied by the number of phases. So 2 into 2, which is 4 seconds, is a total loss for the entire cycle. So then we have to find the optimum cycle length as per the Webster's equation. So Webster equation, the cycle length depend upon two values. One is critical V by S ratio and another is a total loss time. So these two values we have determined in step 2 and 3. Then directly we can substitute here. And finally you are getting the cycle length to be 26.19 seconds. Usually the normal practice is to provide the cycle length in multiples of 5. So I can round it off to 30 seconds. So cycle length is 30 seconds. The total routing is 30 seconds, of which next step is green splitting. I need to split the entire cycle length between the two phases. Okay. So what will be the effective green time? Effective green time will be the cycle length minus the loss time. Okay, so of these 30 seconds, 4 seconds is the loss that is happening there because of the startup and clearance loss. So the effective green time that can be utilized for the vehicle movement is 26 seconds is available for the vehicle movement, which we need to split among the two different phases. So we have two phases, the north-south phase and the east-west phase. So if I'm splitting it, the corresponding green time for phase A will be the V by S ratio for that particular phase, for that particular approach, divided by the critical V by S ratio into the effective green time. So in this case, if we consider the green interval to be provided for the north-south direction, it will be the V by S value for the north-south direction, which is the maximum value is 0.33, divided by the sum of V by S critical value multiplied by the effective green time. This is the effective green time which we are splitting among these two phases, which depends upon the volume existing there, or which depends upon the V by S ratio existing there. Now we are getting 14.79. Accordingly, we can round it off to the nearest whole number, which is 15 seconds. Similarly, the green interval in the east-west direction, we are getting it to 11.21, which we are rounding off to 11 seconds. So you must take care that this thing 15 seconds plus 11 seconds, the sum of this should be equal to the effective green time 26 seconds. Okay, so accordingly you have to round it off to the nearest whole numbers. Green split, the sixth step is to draw the phasing diagram, or to distribute the different intervals. If I consider a graduated scale, okay, the total length of the scale will be the cycle length, or 30 seconds, starting from 0 to 30 seconds. So how can I split among the two phases? We have two phases, one is a north-south phase. So first let's draw a rectangle for the north-south phase. It's a timing diagram for the north-south phase. So we found that green time for north-south phase is 15 seconds, that you can mark here. So here this is 15 seconds. After that, the amber period is given in the question as 2 seconds. So after green comes the amber, the remaining time will be red. Okay. So what will be the red for north-south phase? It will be the total time cycle length 30 minus 15 minus 2, which is 13 seconds. Then what will be the corresponding value for east-west phase? So I can start from 0, 15, 17 and finally it is 30 seconds. Then let's now consider the east-west phase. So the 15 plus 2, which is green plus amber interval for north-south phase, is a time which is permitted for the movement in the north-south phase, becomes red interval for the east-west phase. Okay, so that is 17 seconds. Then the green interval we have found the value to be 11 seconds, and after that we can provide an amber value of 2 seconds. So this is how we can draw the phasing diagram. So finally you have to complete the problem by drawing the phasing diagram indicating the different intervals allotted for different direction of movements. So there are 6 steps involved. First step is you have to find the number of phase. Then you have to find what is V by S value, V by S critical value. After that, have to find the total loss time. And using these values, we can find the cycle time or the cycle length. And that cycle length can be split among the two phases. And accordingly, we can provide the green interval. Once we get the green interval, from those values we can sketch the phasing diagram by providing the green interval, yellow interval as well as the red interval. So this is one way, or the simplest way of doing it. So let's see what are the different types of phasing diagrams. Okay, so the one which we have drawn now is for the American practice, where after green, yellow is provided, then comes the red. Then after red, again the green starts. So that is the American way of, or American practice of phasing diagram. Okay. Then there is UK practice, where after green and also after red there is an amber period. Okay. So there is amber period after green and there is amber period after red, which is known as red amber. So now let's move on to Indian practice. So Indian practice is like American practice. There is an amber being provided after the green interval, and you can again see in the next phase, okay, the green is now directly starting after the red interval. There is again a warning time being provided as the amber time. Okay. So let's do one problem based on this Indian practice of cycle timing or phasing diagram, clearance, amper and emission. Now let's define what is this intergreen period. So in the earlier case, for the American practice of providing signal phase, I told you after green interval for one phase there is amber provided and directly the next green starts from here. Okay, but whereas there is some practice like usually in India we used to provide this intergreen time between the two phases. So the intergreen time is defined as the time between the end of right of way for a phase and the start of the right of way for the next phase. So let's see how this can be done. So once this green ends, there will be amber time, and as per American practice, directly the green starts from here, right? But whereas if intergreen time is provided, then in that case, this green is provided after an interval which is known as the intergreen time. So this is the time difference between the end of one green to the start of next green in the two successive phases is what is known as the intergreen time. Is a period of time between the end of a green light phase in the driving direction and the beginning of green light phase in the crossing direction. So in that case, the total loss time is given as this equation, where I is the intergreen time and A is the amber period. So what will be the time where the vehicles, so loss time I can say it is a time where there is no movement of vehicle is possible. Okay, so during this intergreen time, some amount of time will be lost due to this delay. So that will be I minus this amber time. Plus obviously there is this startup loss and the clearance loss together is the loss per phase. So if there are two phases, it is L into 2. Similarly, there is two phase coming, that is I minus A into 2. So let's solve this problem where the design R flow in different directions are given and the saturation flow is also provided. So it's a fixed time two phase signal. So the number of phases is given. The direction also is given, north, south and east, west roads meeting at right angle to each other. The design R traffic flow at the saturation flow is given in the table. Assuming only straight ahead traffic, calculate the optimum cycle length and find the green interval for each of these phases. The intergreen time is given as 4 seconds. The loss time per phase is given as 2 seconds and the amber interval or yellow interval is given as 2 seconds. So let's solve this problem. So first thing is determine the number of phases. So it is two phases, which is north south and east west. Then second step is to find the V by S ratio and find the critical lanes. So as per the values given, we can find north south is clubbed together, east west is again clubbed together. Okay, so of this we can find the V by S ratio and the maximum of this will be the north south direction is 0.33. And the maximum in the east-west direction is again 0.33. So what will be our sum of V by S critical? It will be 0.33 plus 0.3 which is 0.66 as a V by S critical ratio. And what is the next step to determine the loss time? Okay, so since intergreen time is provided, this is the equation for finding the loss time. So loss per phase is given as 2 seconds. So this is what is loss per phase. And again, there is no overhead period. Otherwise, you have to add a overhead period also here. So what we can provide I minus A. So there are two phases, right? So you have to sum it twice. Okay. So there are two phases. So this is 4 minus 2 into 2 plus 2 into 2. So total loss is 8 seconds. The next step is to find the optimum cycle length. If the loss time is 8 seconds, and V by S critical is 0.66, then the cycle length is coming to be 50 seconds. So once the cycle length is exceeding beyond 120 seconds or 2 minutes, then you have to limit that to 2 minutes or 120 seconds. Then what is next step? Fifth step is green splitting. So the entire cycle time, we have to see how much time is effective green time or the time available for the vehicle movement, which will be the cycle length minus the lost time. So 42 seconds is effectively available for the vehicle movement, which we can split among the two phases. There are only two phases here. Otherwise, if one more phase is there, then we have to split among that phase also. Another phase is there, GC. Okay, if since here there are only two phases, we can calculate or split it among these two phases. So in the green splitting, we are splitting the green time according to the V by S value. So in the north-south direction, the V by S value, maximum value is 0.33. So the time allotted for that will be 21 seconds. Let's now draw the phasing diagram for the signal intervals that we have determined. Okay. So as I told you earlier, we assume a graduated scale having a length equal to that of the cycle length. So we have to draw a rectangular box, okay, of length 50 seconds that I have drawn here, and in that we have to mark the different time intervals. Okay. So first we have already found that the green time for the north-south direction is 21 seconds. Okay. So let's start from 0th second. We can allot 21 units. Okay. For green interval for the north-south direction, which is 21 seconds. And after that comes the amber time of 2 seconds. So from 21, we have to mark 2 seconds and the time becomes 23 seconds. So what will be the remaining time here? 50 minus 23 will be 27. Since we have provided this intergreen time or the Indian system of providing the signal phase, we have to provide a 2 second after the red also. So if that is the system that we are following, then after red we have to provide 2 seconds. So I told you 50 minus 23, this remaining time will be 27 seconds, of which 2 seconds is again provided for amber. So the remaining 25 seconds will be the red interval available in the north-south direction. Now let's see how we can draw the phasing diagram for east-west phase. So in the question it is being given as 4 second intergreen time. So intergreen time is a time between the end of right of way of one phase to the start of right of way for the next phase. Okay. So if that has been the case, so 4 second after 4 second intergreen time, the next phase green time starts. So here starts the here starts the next green time, and after this green time there will be an amber period of 2 seconds. So 21 plus 2, okay, which means 23 seconds, and remaining will be this much is 25 seconds. So remaining there is another 2 seconds being provided here. Why it is being provided? Because here already there is amber provided after the red. So during this time the vehicle may or may not enter. So that time for the opposite phase we must provide a red interval. Okay. And after this much 25 seconds is being provided for green, amber and red. So what about the remaining this much time? Okay. So the remaining time we have this 25 seconds. Okay, of which 23 seconds will be allotted for red, because after red a 2 second amber to be provided. So 23 seconds for red plus 2 second amber together will give us 25 seconds. So we can see here, so if I draw a straight line from here to here, so 21 plus 2 second is the time permitted for the vehicle movement in one direction where it is red for the other phase. Whereas here if you see, green amber is the time permitted for the vehicle movement in one direction where it is red for the other phase. Okay, so this is how we can draw the phasing diagram by avoiding the conflict points. Hope it's clear to you. Yeah. Now we can wind up. We can have a quick revision of what all we have discussed today. So we started with the transportation system, and we have seen the different classification based on the means or modes of transport. Then moving into the traffic engineering part, we have seen the intersection, different types of intersection, at grade as well as grade separated intersection, and we have seen the classification of at grade intersection, channelized, unchannelized, rotary intersection. And coming on to the rotary intersection, we have seen the design elements in the rotary roundabout, how to find the capacity of a rotary roundabout, and then finally the signal design. So the basic notations and definitions we have discussed, and after that we have seen the Webster method of signal design and what are the factors influencing the cycle time, that is the sigma v by S critical and also the loss time we have discussed. Then we solved a problem where the different steps involved is being discussed, and finally to draw the phasing diagram. So these were the portions that we have covered in today's lecture. So hope you all have enjoyed. If you have any doubts, you can contact me in the mail ID provided by SAP. You can write to me. And thank you all for listening to my lecture. Thank you.